boom, 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 boom. Sujobae Podcast.
Alright, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to episode 3 of the SUJOBAE Podcast. My name is Joseph Kim.
And I'm Susie Lee.
And I am Matthew Bay.
And yes, we are recording our 3rd episode here. Thank you for all of those who've been listening on Spotify or YouTube.
For real.
And, you know, it's been a while since we recorded, so how have you guys been? How's your week
Valentine's
been?
Day.
Yeah, it's been Valentine's Day yesterday.
Yeah.
Well, we all went to something special.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah,
we had a
all-
Cornerstone event recently.
We had
with
we all
Valentine's.
had a Valentine's event. I got chocolates and flowers.
Nice.
That was fun. And I don't know, it was just like a normal day for me. I don't really I've never really wait, what's Tenggyu in English?
Like to take care or like
No, like Tenggyu, like Valentine's Day Tenggyu.
oh
Take it seriously.
you're not type to
Make a big deal of it.
yeah kind
Yeah,
of
like I'm not the type to
make it a structured thing.
Yeah, like I don't really care about
You don't plan
Valentine's.
for it. You don't.
Yeah,
plan
I've
out
never
it. You don't
really. It's kind of like Thanksgiving. I don't really care about Valentine's,
Mm.
but I mean, like I went out to eat. It was just like kind of like a normal day, just dinner, and then I still streamed, still done homework. You know, it wasn't anything special.
Valentine's Day. I was so tired from the weekend.
Yeah.
Because if you know what happened was basically this past week I had all my projects and presentations and everything, and I had to edit the Valentine's video, and then I had to MC for the Valentine's event, and then I had to lead for worship. I had to dance. I had to lead for worship the next morning on Sunday, and then
we had Super Bowl Sunday.
and then we had Super Bowl Sunday here. So I was so dead.
Morning lecture today, so I've been at home all day, and then I had a lab practical, but that was really quick, so pretty nice to recover from the weekend and whatnot. I think Valentine's and Super Bowl being on the same weekend was not a good combo.
No, but both were fun. But
yeah, it was a good time. It was a good time.
yeah, that was
Yeah, heard the type or the.
not Tigers.
No,
What do you mean?
The Bengals lost.
No, yeah, Bengals lost. I was about to say Titans because
The
that was
Titans.
The Tigers and
Remember the Titans.
the Tigers and the sheep.
The lion and the lamb.
Wait, who won? Oh, the Rams.
Oh,
Rams.
yes,
LA
the
Rams.
Oh,
Who's their quarterback?
All I know is Joe Bureau.
Bureau.
It's not
Yes.
Burrow.
Burrow.
Bureau's this.
All I know is Joe Burrow. From
Joe Burrow.
It's Burrow.
Burrow.
Like you burrow into the ground.
Oh, Burrow.
Okay.
Yes.
And this is a great introduction to our topic for today, because
Yeah.
we're going to talk about how that we're all Korean. Obviously, some are a little bit more Korean than others, as you can tell by our pronunciation of words. We were thinking about topics to talk about. We already gave you guys the 2 other relationship podcasts. We're going to be done for that for a bit. But we're going to talk about us being Korean. So obviously, if you know us, both Joseph and Susie were born in Korea. And
I was
oh,
not
no.
born in Korea.
Well, I mean, but Joe lived in Korea for
I
a long
think
time.
our levels
Yeah.
of Koreanness is very different.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I never lived in Korea. I wasn't born in Korea. I lived in the States my whole life.
I was born in Korea and I moved to America when I was in 7th grade, and then I haven't been really gone back since. And then
Yeah, and I was born in the States, lived in the States for around 16, 17 years, and then lived in Korea for 5 years. So
all
they're
very
very different experiences among all 3 of us. And I think this is something we kind of noticed when we were making the podcast and kind of was coming up with the name. As you guys know, it's a Korean reference. And we were kind of like, one thing we really do have in common is that we're Korean, but at the same time, that thing we're in common with is also very different. Like, it's defined very differently among all 3 of us. So it's a unique thing that we have as a group, and I think it's a cool topic to talk about, because not a lot of people, first of all, have the, I guess, benefit of being from another culture while living here in America. But at the same time, living here in America, we sometimes don't appreciate our true, I guess, culture or heritage. So it's good to talk about, I think, and something definitely we thought it was interesting. So I think we can start off with asking the question, kind of to broaden the topic, I guess, is what does it mean to be Korean to you? I mean, that is a very vague question, but when I think define yourself as a race or an ethnic group, you obviously say you're Asian or Asian American, but that Asian you are is Korean, and Korea is such a small country and recently has become a much more popular country. And with that, I think it's important to really embrace that. And what does it mean to be Korean to you? Like, you know, Korea is being more popular and whatnot. How would you represent yourself as a Korean?
You want to go first?
Thank you, Professor. We'll be so I'll be talking from I guess my perspective is probably different from all you guys in the way that like I've lived in Illinois my whole life. Now I didn't live like in the city, like I didn't live in Chicago, but I lived in like obviously the suburbs of Chicago, so I was a little bit more sheltered, I would say. And I think my parents did a great job in like being in places where it was like pretty diverse. But I think because it was diverse, being Korean was what made me unique. So I wasn't like everyone else, basically. I looked very different. I would say pretty different. I didn't do the same things as like what like maybe like white or black people did. Like I did things differently. I had different like rules, fashion, whatever. I think so I think being Korean, at least for me, was just my way of being unique. But even then, like I wouldn't say that like I'm like super Korean. I think to provide a little bit of backstory, my parents moved to the States when they were very young. So I think around both of them before they were 10. So they were able to come to the United States, learn English, right? And then, just take off from there. But my grandparents, so their parents don't speak English well at all because obviously they moved when they were like 30, 40. So so it's a little bit different because like I'm pretty Americanized. I would say like my parents both prefer to speak English because their English is fine. My dad speaks a little bit more Korean because he works for a Korean company, and my mom only speaks Korean to our relatives or her Korean friends or whatever. So it was different.
Would you say you're like second gen then in terms of?
Yeah, I'm second gen. Okay. I you can even say I'm third gen. No, you can't. But like I think I'm second gen. But I think I think I'm second gen. Yeah.
Wait, so which gen are you again?
The one after one. What about you, Suzy?
I've never actually had anyone ask me like, what does it mean to be Korean? Or like, I've never.
Or maybe just like start off with explaining your background.
Yeah, I can explain my background. So I don't know, for up until when I was 13 years old, our family, you know, it was just like a normal Korean family in Korea living normal life. And one day my mom got into we went to London as a family trip, and after that she was like, okay, Korea's just not it, like we have to get out of here. And she also didn't really like the education there, so that's why our family moved. But after we moved to America when I was 13, so I went to 7th grade, it was a really, really big change. And like Matt said, I moved to Kentucky, and even in Kentucky it was like a really, really small town, and it was not diverse at all. It was probably like half like white and then half black and then maybe like 0.5% Asian. But even then, like Koreans were so rare. Like our Korean church probably had like 30 people at max if everyone was there. So
it's like cornerstone.
Worse, like probably really worse. So like just like Matt, like at our school, no one really, they didn't even understand like other races existed really. So I think being Korean was also like something that made me unique, also like something that I didn't really like. But I guess we can go into that later. But just my background is moved from Korea when I was in middle school, and my family, we all speak Korean to each other because my mom she's more comfortable with Korean, obviously.
So you would be first gen because you came in after
she immigrated.
Wait, am I not 1.5 gen?
Well, you came into the States after you were born, so you immigrated to America. So you're first generation immigrant for your family, right?
Yeah.
But that's how
Was Joseph born in Korea?
No, he was born here.
So he's 1.5.
Joseph as in
he's 2. No,
he's first. Or
no.
He's 1.5.
He's 1.5. He's 1.5.
He was born
we're not talking about Joseph. This Joseph. We're talking about my brother Joseph.
Oh yeah, she has a younger brother named Joseph.
Yeah.
Just in case you guys were confused.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So he's 1.5.
Yeah,
Alice was born in Korea.
I identify myself as 1.5. I'm in the same boat as Susie's younger
Wait,
brother.
but you were born in the States.
I was born in the States, but my parents came they were in their 30s, so they immigrated to America, and I was born while they were still in that transition. So they're like half gen. So I consider myself 1.5. So yeah, Susie,
Yeah,
Susie
1.5 is right.
you would be 1 because you were
I'm
born.
like 1.25.
All right.
Wait, you came to the States speaking no English.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's
you're
fine.
one. You're
You've
one.
adjusted.
You're
fine.
one.
You're straight up 1. Matt's a straight up 2.
Yeah, I'm straight up 2.
And I'm 1.5. For me, so my parents came to America before I was born, mainly because my dad needed to go to graduate school here in America. And while he was in his studies, I was born in California. And I didn't have as much of a growing up as a minority as Asian, because California has a huge Asian population, if not a Korean population. So
Basically.
yeah, my Korean church was big back in California. My school had a decent population of Koreans. Had no problem hanging out with just Asian people. So it never felt really, I guess, a big minority segregation between the other races. But I did have to move quite a bit within California. So I had friends, and I was part of not as big of a minority, but I did have to adjust around and move around a lot. Ended up moving to Virginia as well, and then back into Korea. But yeah, we can go back and talk about that later. But yeah, I would consider myself a 1.5. Even my younger brother, although his case is a little unique, I would say he's also 1.5. So my family, in terms of the generation in my family, I think I stand as a 1.5. Just because I was born there, having my parents been there for quite a bit before I was born. Yeah, and not being straight from Korea or anything like that.
So I guess to put the record straight, so I can't speak. I can read okay, but I can't speak
Really?
and write.
You can't read, okay?
I can read okay, cause I at least can but I wouldn't know what it means.
Oh.
I could say it out loud, but I wouldn't know what it means.
Do you know how
so
to read the letters?
I can read the letter. I can
You
say
don't
it in
know
my
what it means.
head. So like I can't speak, read, or write that well. You would say that you're good at all 3, or
I feel like, yeah. I mean, I can speak Korean fully. I can write it fully. I can read it fully, and I also translate.
okay.
Which is like a bonus. I
Yeah,
feel like.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I feel like my Korean skills are
And
as
then-
high as.
Yeah, and then Joe, same thing.
Yeah,
You
same
think you
thing.
can- okay.
But I think in terms of translating, I'm more of a verbal translator because my reading and writing is slightly weaker because I never formally learned it as a kid. But definitely can do all 3 pretty decently. Speaking is probably my strongest. Yeah, I would consider myself almost fluent in terms of all that. But translating only speaking wise, I think, because writing takes a little bit more
So it's
practice.
me, then Joseph, and Matt.
Okay, we're putting it down.
I think though, like, language is a big thing. I think
That's the only way you can find really, or the first thing people ask is, can you speak the language, right? When they see if you're from a different country or whatnot. I think knowing the language is a big part of knowing or defining yourself another country. Not like to bash on anything you or like that, but I'm just saying in general when people ask, oh, are you Chinese or are you Italian or whatnot, it's like, can you speak the language, right? And if you can, that kind of gives a big like, oh, okay, like, you know what I mean?
but I think in America, you're first considered to speak like English no matter what.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So I don't
Yeah.
think language is obviously what separates probably, but I think being a minority is like that's enough. Like you don't need to like speak the language in order for
because
people
you
to
look
know.
the
Yeah,
part.
because you look the
The
part.
appearance
Yeah,
is probably the most forefront.
yeah. The appearance is probably the biggest thing, and also
Yeah.
like the way you live. Because like even though like I don't speak Korean, I still lived like I would say like a classic Korean American
Yeah, like
family.
eat
Like
kimchi.
no, like I mean like I did the we celebrate the Korean holidays.
Oh.
Like you know what I mean like we did the Korean customs,
Yeah.
right? We did everything, right? We did
You watch
like
Korean shows.
yeah, we watch Korean shows. Like we listen to Korean music sometimes, right? Like we did like like we wear certain things. You know what I mean? Like we did like those things, but like we just didn't speak that well. I think the reason why I think my parents didn't want me to speak Korean or like didn't like push it was because like I don't think they saw it was like worth it at the time. I know they regret it now. I know both my parents really regret not teaching me or Adam Korean.
Well, I think it's also because I heard somewhere if you're living in America and if your parents are decently fluent in English, it's really hard for the kids of those parents to speak the second language.
Yeah.
And that's something I'm also concerned with if I eventually live here and have kids. I'm like pretty dead set on trying to teach them Korean, but I'm so much more comfortable in speaking English while living here in America that it's just that much more harder because there's so many conveniences with explaining things, with figuring things out, and just doing day-to-day things in front of your kids. It's all going to be in English. So unless your parents don't know how to speak English, it's really hard to pass on the language in America.
Yeah.
I think.
So would you guys both say you're more comfortable? Oh, I know Matt is, but are you more comfortable with speaking in English then?
No, outside of the family, yes.
Because I feel like I don't know what my answer would be anymore now that like my Korean skills have like gone even more. And I've before I worked at a Korean restaurant, I feel like, you know, my Korean was like just speaking with my family plus like adults. But now like I know how to like hang out with people like in Korean too. So if someone asks me like, are you more comfortable in English or Korean? Like I honestly think it's like completely equal for me.
The only time I would consider Korean is if I was in a Korean setting. So if I was physically in the country of Korea, I'm much more comfortable speaking Korean. Like if someone was speaking English to me in Korea, it would feel off just because I'm in Korean mode when I'm in Korea. And anything related with family is always in Korean. And that kind of extends over to like if I'm hanging out with friends from Korea. So we might all know how to speak English, but if we're hanging out in Korea and we grew up in Korea together, I'm much more inclined to speak Korean. Churches in Korea, even though it's all English service or English speaking service or whatnot, I still feel more comfortable in Korean. So
environment, because like, even like when I went to Korea, I remember like I just like spoke the little Korean I knew, or I just like shut up because like, you know, speaking English is even weirder because it's like it sets that like that mark on you, like, okay, this person's not from here, like, you know what I mean, like you're different from us. So like, and it's kind of weird because you're Korean, but you go to Korea and you're different, you know, because it's like you don't speak the language as well, or you have an accent, or you dress like an American. Like I got told that a lot when I came to Korea a long time ago. Even. Like you dress like an American, like you look like an American, your skin's like an American. Like I got told that a lot. So it's like when I went to Korea, like I just didn't speak, and I know that's crazy because you know me, I talk a lot, but I didn't talk at all because I didn't want to be like made fun of or like judged or like seen as like, oh, this person is like different, you know. So it's just I just wanted to be like everyone else and just exist, right? So yeah, environment definitely changes how you view. But I guess we could go into now our experiences in our like childhood.
Yeah.
You want to say childhood? Because
call it childhood.
Childhood being Korean.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wait, childhood like in America?
Wherever your childhood was.
Okay.
Because our experiences were different, right? I was in the States. You were in the States. You were in Korea. So do you want to start? You're probably most interested.
Oh. Well, like I said earlier, my childhood in Korea was just normal. Like I was just, I don't know. In Korea, you don't see it really other races. I was all with Korean people.
Did you have to do the whole? Because I know something that I realize is different, and a lot of people don't realize is Koreans, they do boys and girls school.
Oh no, I went to the mixed.
Okay.
No, I went to the mixed.
Oh, there's an option. There's an option.
Yeah,
traditionally it would be separated into boys and girls.
Oh really? Oh.
My cousins were like that, and my parents were like that too.
Well, my parents were like that, but we had an option too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But I went to middle school in Korea for 2 months because I wanted to like try like the school uniform. I didn't really have to go.
Oh yeah, the uniform.
But like so honestly, I don't really have memories of middle school. I think all the memory of Korea ends in elementary school, which like nothing was stressful yet. I didn't really get to experience like the Korean education, and I came to America, and I honestly I wasn't really expecting anything. So like when I first got here, we got here in May. So from May to August, we were summer break. Me and my sister had like the best time of our lives. Like we went to pool every day. Like it was so fun. And then we went to the school. And the first thing I've noticed, I'm like, wow, like I actually can't understand a single thing. And since it was the first day, oh yeah, and I was late on the first day too. Because like the school started so early. It was like 7:30. And in Korea, school starts like at 9.
Yeah.
So this was like a 7:30, yeah.
Okay.
So then I was late for school. So then I was already like lost because I was late and I can't speak English. So I went to like the principal's office, And then they like were like asking me questions, and I'm like, I actually couldn't understand anything. So then she like sent one of like the like adopted Korean girl to like help me, but she couldn't speak Korean, so she was like no help. So then I like eventually figured it out, and I was into an ESL class, not like the normal class. So I walked in like so excited to see like what an American school would be like, because like in Korea you watch movies. It was nothing like that. Everyone was
You went
like,
to the wrong state.
Yeah, everyone was like.
First of all, you were in Kentucky.
Yeah, they were all Asians, but they were not Korean, and they did not speak the language I spoke, and it was just like not a good first sight. I was just like, oh, like I am the minority here. And then like she started the lesson, and the first thing we learned was alphabet, and I was like, wait, like are we in middle school? And I already knew like some of that. So then they moved me out of ESL in like 3 days. So I went to like normal classes with like American kids. Like I didn't go ESL anymore, and that's when everything started, I guess. So to these people, like I'm the first Asian that like ever seen basically, and they don't understand the fact that like I can't speak English because I speak another language. So it's something I got made fun of a lot. Or like I guess back then I didn't even know I was getting bullied, because like I don't know.
I don't know what they're saying.
Yeah, I was just like happy to be there.
Yeah, because like, you were getting attention, but you didn't know the attention.
Also, it's middle school. So
exactly.
School,
But then like I was like, I feel like I was bullied pretty heavily. Like for example, like before we grab our lunch, we like had to put our backpacks down on a table. Like we went to go get food, and then like I would come back, and I was so happy because I loved pizza and stuff. So I was like, wow, this is like great.
You still do.
And and then I'll come back, and like my backpack's like thrown on the floor or stuff like that. And people would like, I don't know, like especially the guys are just so mean to me, but I couldn't like say anything. And like people would like steal my stuff. Like they stole my iPhone, dude. And iPhones are so expensive back then.
Back then they're very expensive.
Yeah. Anyways, and I remember this one story. So there are these like group of people who are so mean to me, and I was so mad at them, but I couldn't like say anything. So I wrote a letter in Korean, like cursing them out. I was like, I like hate you guys so much. Like I wish we were in Korea so like I could say something, but I can't. And then I like folded the paper, and on the front I wrote, "Don't tell teachers." So then like
you wrote in English.
Yeah.
Don't tell teacher. Okay,
yeah. So then they were scared apparently. So the letter went to the principal. So I got in trouble for like threatening, and I was like, wow, what the heck. But then and my middle school was just not a good time. But then we moved schools for high school, so I was in a different school district, and it was like people are a little better because like the first school I went to for middle school, they're all like very high class people. So like it was like I guess it was worse. But I guess high school was just a little better. And also after 2 years, I think I perfected English after that. And it like definitely motivated me to learn English faster. So I think I definitely learned English fast for someone who like came to America really late.
I think that's like kind of cool. It kind of low-key gives me hope, because like if I go to Korea for like 2-3 years, I have to like
go to like a school.
I know, but I have to learn Korean, right? Because that's the only thing I hear. But the thing is, like if that's the only thing you hear every day, you'll eventually get it.
Yeah.
Because I know some people who recently they went to Korea and they've been there for 3 years. They're fluent now, and like apparently they got rid of most of their accent. So I was like, because if you apply yourself, you will learn it. But I think if that's for you, like you're surrounded by obviously English speaking people. You probably have to like go to restaurants and stuff like that and speak English, so you got it quicker.
Did you do the whole like drop a grade, like?
I didn't because I didn't go to middle school in Korea, so I just went in as like a first year. But it was cool because after like a couple of years after I could speak English, like I started working at a local restaurant. So then I saw a lot of people who used to like bully me, and then they would come up to the window, and then I was like able to communicate. And then one of them were like, "Oh, Susie, I thought you didn't know how to talk," and I was like, "Dude, I just like didn't know English. Like what the?" Yeah, but they just like didn't understand.
Makes sense.
Even like packing food, like everything was just I don't know. I hated being Korean back then. I like actually hate it. I was so ashamed of my race, but yeah.
Well, now you're here.
Yeah. Well, because of BTS and all us.
Now people fantasize about Korean people, huh?
No, now it's kind of creepy now.
But I'm the OG BTS fan. I
No, I'm not talking about BTS.
What are you talking about?
It's just Korean in general.
I
Like,
know.
yeah, like people like fetishize and fantasize. Like,
And no one asked like, oh, are you from North Korea? Like, no one asked.
yeah.
Mm.
I remember. Oh my god, I got that so many times.
Wait, I'll go about one more story. Sorry, you can edit this out if it's like way too
No, go
long.
ahead.
No, go.
But I went over to my friend's house for the first time, and we went to her grandparents. And we went to her grandparents, and I think it was like her grandparents' first time seeing Asian too.
Mm.
So they sat me down, and I couldn't even speak English that well. They were asking me so many questions. They were like, "Did you guys like run away?" And I was like,
Yeah.
"I'm like, no." And they were like,
We dodged the type.
and then they asked like, "Oh, like, are you from South or from North?" Or they would be like, I don't know. They just asked me so many questions, like, "What kind of food do you guys eat?" And like, I don't know. It was I felt like I
You
was.
should have been
at a
like, you
zoo.
distract the sniper.
I eat bread.
Yeah. But it was just, I don't know. It just felt like I almost to the point where I didn't feel like a person. I felt like a
Oh.
different breed, kind of, because it was like everyone else and then me.
Oh, you're a different breed.
No, not.
I'll
But
tell you
yeah.
that.
Yeah, it was.
Don't gotta worry about that one.
It was hard. It was definitely.
No, yeah. I think my experience
Mm.
is kind of similar. It's just that I spoke English.
Mm.
So in a way, I was able to fight back. But I think what I never did, because again, you're like the only Asian person potentially. Maybe like there's like two other people. Actually, so the middle school and elementary school that I went to was, so for people that back at home, SCS, Schaumburg Christian School. So I went to Schaumburg Christian School until 8th grade. And that was a private school. So actually a lot more Asians ended up going there for a little bit because like, I guess we were more well off and like, you know, obviously Asian parents at the time, they want the best education, quote unquote, right? Or like most sheltered for their kid. So I didn't have like lack of Asian friends, but there wasn't a lot. I didn't have a lot. Most of my friends back then were either white, black, or Indian. Like I don't remember having that many like, well, Indian, Asian, I count as Asian, but like it was mostly like black and white. The issue with like for me though was like when people made fun of me, it was like either I had to completely stand up for myself by myself, or I just like shut up and take it. And like most of the times I just shut up and take it because it's like you don't want to like ruin, like make it weird, or you don't want to like, you know, like be that guy.
And they were like, "Oh, just take a joke."
Yeah, just take a joke, right? It's like whatever. It's like, oh, you're just yellow, you know. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, so,
You're a monkey.
you're a monkey, right? So it's just like, all right, well, whatever, you know what I mean? So it's like, so I think, and also it was just like there was a lot of like I experienced this in high school too, but it's just a lot of like disrespect. Like I wasn't taken seriously. I wasn't considered to be anything important other than if it was for academics. So in a way, because like I wasn't very good at academics, I was better at sports. So in a way, like I got really frustrated when I played sports. But then even though I was stupid, the teachers thought I was smart because like they were like, "Oh, he's Asian. He has to be good at math."
Oh
But
yeah.
But I suck at math, right? But the thing is, like, she was like, "Oh, he must have just had a bad day." You know what I mean? It's just like it's not like, "Oh, man doesn't know what to do." It's just, but which is like a good and bad thing, is a little bit different. I would say the most Korean thing, the only thing that like kept me like happy was my Korean church. Because when I go there, everyone there looks like me. Like we all eat the same food, we all do the same things, right? We're all speaking English or Korean, right? Like, you know, it was just amazing. I remember like every day I would just dread going to school, but then Friday nights, right, for youth group, and like Sunday, and like any other like hangout that we do throughout the week, that was my life. I remember that was the only thing keeping me going. Yeah, mine was a little bit different, but mine was okay. Yeah.
I feel like it's actually better. I think I was in a better because I feel like if people were like being racist to me and I knew how to fight back, but I couldn't, I think that would be more frustrating.
No, yeah.
you know?
I think it was really frustrating because like it wasn't even like racism, but you're just not taken seriously. It's just like you're just there. You know, like you're not seen as like the star player, but you're seen as okay. You're not seen as the best student, but you know you're there. You know, it's like it's just I don't know. It was a weird dynamic, especially because I went to a Baptist. It was a Baptist school, so Baptist is generally more like Southern, like white. So they're very like it was more white dominant. So that was a little bit weird. I remember.
And I think also like for girls and guys, I feel like guys didn't like Asian people. So like
back then no one liked Asian people.
exactly. So like no romance in high school either. Like I can imagine, but that's
What do you
very smart.
No,
No,
no romance in high school.
no, like I couldn't like anybody. I was just not attracted to anybody.
Like white
They
guys?
just felt so different. Yeah.
I think actually like I got used to it, but I think that's because my situation was a little bit different.
That's because you're horny.
Gotta bring it back.
Like guys, my guy friends were white.
Oh.
No, dated anybody that's not Asian. But did I talk about this already?
Maybe.
Alright, your turn, Joseph.
For me, I guess for my childhood, that was in America. So elementary school to middle school. I was fortunate to be in a state that had a pretty decent Korean or Asian population, California and Northern Virginia. Both of them I went to schools that had a lot of Asians. The only struggle I had really was constantly moving. Since preschool till 6th grade, I went to 6 different schools, 1 per grade basically. And then had to move to middle school, whatnot. And the one thing I think I struggled for being Asian is if you have that many Asians around you, I don't know if this is common in other races, but you end up comparing yourself to the other Asians. And what I mean by that is just because the Asian culture like stereotype is that you've got to be smart, you got to be doing the high level classes or high level APs or whatnot. If you're not doing that and you see all your other Asian friends doing it, you feel left out.
Definitely.
There's definitely
100%.
So I never felt the whole I'm the only Asian or one of the few Asians out of everyone in the school, so I was looked at, I was some kind of other person or whatnot. But it was more of I'm here and I'm an Asian, that guy's an Asian, that guy's also an Asian, we're Koreans. Our parents probably know each other too through family friends or whatnot. And if my friend is going to these tutors and these after school academies and these study sessions and whatnot, and they're doing these extracurricular stuff related to their future or whatnot, and during the summer they're doing all these summer programs, doing college visits, and I'm just here sitting and doing nothing. I would feel so pressured to do those things, and I could never tell my parents that, Mom, can you enroll, because it's expensive, right? And some of these parents were crazy, and no matter the cost, they would send their kids to these overseas summer camps to prestigious colleges or whatnot, and boost their resume or whatnot.
It's Sky
yeah,
Castle.
starting at 6th grade, ever since middle school. And it didn't help when I was in middle school. So I was in Northern Virginia, and those people who are in Northern Virginia or from Northern Virginia will probably know the school called Thomas Jefferson High. It's, I think, the top-rated science and technology high school that you have to apply for to enter. And just because I was living in that area, there's naturally a lot of people trying to apply to that school because it's in the area. But people from all over the nation would be applying for this one high school because it's a STEM school, and it gives so much opportunity, not only as a high school student, but into your college career. And you basically have to do a whole nother set of SATs and stuff in middle school for this high school, right? It's not even college. And they were doing all these summer camps and after school stuff. And me being in the area, my parents caught the wind and they were like, okay, we can send you to these things that your school is, hosting so you can study for it. But unfortunately, that was also the time when my dad got an offer in Korea. So even if I got it or not, I would have had to move to Korea. So I had to give up that. But just the build up until I left for Korea, as an Asian, I was just naturally competitive in the academic realm. Sports, Asians could care less if you're good or not, just because we're physically at a disadvantage compared to the other races. I mean, stereotypically, not saying Asians are bad at sport, but growing up in America, it's hard. So you can't do varsity every time. So,
if you're Asian and you're on the basketball team, you're definitely only 5'8".
Yeah. So I'm just saying, I was planning to do varsity golf because I was playing for a summer team for the high school in middle school, and I was being recruited for golf. But golf's the only thing I could think of that I could do as an Asian for sports. So I was only focusing on academics, and I just became really competitive trying to be, because I didn't want to fall behind the stereotype. It's kind of, I know a lot of people Asian being smart is a stereotype, and you shouldn't believe that. It's not wrong. It's not a bad thing. And Asians typically there are really smart Asians, and if you compare yourself to those people and you're I'm Asian, he's Asian, I shouldn't be this dumb, if they're in these high level classes, I should be taking them too. And if I'm not, I feel I'm under accomplishing compared to them. And that was kind of the struggle I went through as a kid, right? And my parents never pushed it, but I always felt pushed myself because I was just comparing. And that's, I think, the hardest thing I went through as a Korean in high school or in my childhood as a student in America when I was a kid. And then when I moved to Korea, so I've been going to public school my whole life. In Korea, I couldn't just jump into Korean public school because I was not at that level of Korean. So I had to go to an international school, which is a private school. And most people who go to private schools are also big money, and they're all like doing all these extra stuff with money. So they all do the after school stuff, the summer camps and whatnot, and it didn't stop. And I just continuously compared myself throughout high school. And I think that was a very unhealthy thing. But yeah, growing up, I think as a Korean, that was probably my biggest thing. As a Korean, I should be smart. I think that was my biggest identifying factor.
I think that's a good thing to talk about, because I'm not sure if Suzy went through it, but comparison between Asians, at least for me, was a big thing, because when I went to my high school it's in a very good district, in a very good area. Like, I was the top school in my district. I know some people are gonna be mad about that, but it's true. Friend was better in D211. That's all I'm saying. We were ranked higher. We always had people go to Northwestern, Harvard. Don't talk. Anyways, but like, I think there was a lot of, so most of my friends were Indian, actually, in high school. So most of my friends were Indian. What are you laughing? That's
no,
racist.
I just they cut that out.
You laughing at Indians now, huh?
No, that's not. No, I was.
Anyways, yeah, but most of my friends were Indian, and then, or Chinese, and Korean. And I think, like, for me, being somebody who, like, wasn't, like, I'm not a very academic driven person, I took the classes that everybody else was taking, even though when I shouldn't have, because it was a pride thing, right? I wanted to say that I was in this class, but I would fail it, right? So but I wouldn't tell anybody, right? I would just fake it, like, oh, I got, like, a B or something like that. But I would fail those classes, right? But it's just so I could say that I was in it, because again, you don't want to, like, be behind or stay out of the loop, right? I think I struggled with that all the way up until maybe, like, sophomore year in college.
Oh, you told us that.
Yeah, when I finally just, like, accepted that, like,
that you're stupid.
you can't talk about stupid.
Academically.
So, like, I just think it's not that I'm, like, dumb. It's just that if it takes Joe 2 hours to figure out a concept, it would take me 6.
And then it would take me 10.
Yeah, it would take you know what I mean? Like, it would take me 6 hours, right? I can't figure things out as quick, right? I think when I finally accepted that, like, this is just who God made me, I'm not good at math, I would never be a CS major or an engineering major, that's when my grades got better. Because I accepted it. I was like, all right, I just have to take these classes because this is my level, you know? And this is what I'm good at, right? So I think that's one of the, but, like, yeah, like, comparison is a big thing for the Asian community, and also because, like, you're trying to meet that stereotype. So as an Asian, right, and especially in, like you're seen by everyone else as, you have to be good at math, you have to be somewhat smart, right? And if you don't fit that, everyone now is like, then what's your worth? Like, now you're worth nothing. If you're not smart as an Asian, then you're probably not good at sports, you're probably not good at anything else. So what else do you have worth in? And I think that was a big struggle, I think, for Asians, at least in my high school, because they were all very, like, academically, like, driven and very successful in that. And at least, like, it doesn't matter, like, if you suck at sports or your fashion blows, right, or something like that. Like, it didn't matter. But if you had a 4.0, it's like, okay, you fulfilled your
role as an Asian.
Your stereotype, yeah. You filled your role as an Asian, you know? So I think that was something that I struggled with, and yeah.
For me, like, first of all, I'm not really an academically driven person either, I wouldn't say. But there were actually 6 kids at our Korean church. And I guess it is, like, our tendency to get competitive, because one of the, like, my parents are really chill. Like, if we're happy, then it really doesn't, I mean, as long as we don't, like, fail, you know. She didn't want us to drop out, but one of the parents were very, very toxic, and it influenced, like, our family too, because he would be like, oh, my daughter got this, like, why didn't your daughter get this? Or you know, it would naturally just, like, and for me, I'm like, why is that, like, you know, I was just, like,
You're
not
different than that.
Yeah, but I don't think I would necessarily say I, like, went through that, like, competitiveness, because or I don't even think it's a word, competitiveness. Oh,
or competition.
Yeah,
competition, yeah.
Didn't go through that competition.
Yeah.
If you guys paid attention earlier, you know why.
Yeah, I don't think so, because, like, okay, not to bash on anyone, and I think this is fine, but my friends didn't care about college. They're all gonna stay in Bowling Green, and I don't know, they would get like 18 on ACT, and they're like, I mean, that was good enough. to go.
Well, if it's good enough
And
for you.
yeah, if they like wanted to stay in Bowling Green
Whatever.
forever, like that's fine.
Yeah.
But that's just not what I wanted to do. So I don't think I really felt like the competition between. Yeah, I don't think that's something I went through. Which is I'm glad because I don't think I would have survived.
Well, let me just say though, like with that, I think it's also important to realize like it starts from your parents.
Yeah.
Like you as a kid will be like comparing yourself, but your parents also kind of be like, hey, your friend got this, or I friend your hurt's doing this. And my parents, I think, did a pretty okay job at not really comparing myself with other people.
Same.
But once you go, and this is something I was pretty shocked culturally when I moved to Korea, is like, Korea's just on a whole nother level with just competitiveness and like comparing each other academics. Everything's rank system. Your test scores are posted publicly in the hallway after each exam.
That's so messed
And
up.
your names are in the order of how well you're doing in the class. There's class representative who's always the number one student. I don't know if it's like that now, but that was traditionally what my parents grew up with. And it's being my parents' generation, having grown up with that. The kids of that generation is my generation, so they all grow up hearing the same stories. And my parents were pretty good at like not pushing myself too much to do. They just said take what you can or do what you can do, but they feel the pressure from other parents, right? Because that's what they talk about as parents, like my kid's doing this, or my kid's, we're enrolling our kid into this. And my parents can't just be like, oh, we're not doing that for our son or our kid, like then that just makes him look like a bad parent compared to them. So they just feel pressured, right? And me and my brother, we don't go up to my parents and be like, can you enroll us into this? Because that's more work for us. But at the same time, when our parents are like, hey, we heard a group of your friends are doing so, are you feeling left out? They'll always ask us that. If you want, we can enroll you for you, just so that you don't seem like you're out of the loop with all the other things that your friends are doing. And that's so toxic, and it gets to you. It's so stressful, and I wish it wasn't like that. But Korea does have an underlying tone of competitive straight throughout. Because up until college, it's all about rank, all about how you do. You get one chance at college. If you fail that exam, you're screwed for the rest of your life. Like you gotta wait another whole year for that one exam because you only get one per year, a try per year. And each year goes by, it's harder and harder for you to go into college, and you ruin your chances of going into a decent life and a decent job. So it's competitive straight up until that college exam, and that the day of the exam is like you can feel the tension in Korea. Like the atmosphere is insane, and I think that also doesn't really help with the fact that Asians are stereotypically related to having to be academically, better than an average person, or you have to get this certain amount of grades or certain amount of academic success in order to do well in life. But yeah, I think that's insane. And comparing is never a really good solution or a good habit, but it happens, and you got to learn how to outgrow that, I think.
I think the next thing, I think we should talk about how our views have changed. You know how like back then we were like, oh, like we were kind of embarrassed to be, or I guess that was for me and Matt, like how that's how if it has changed or not. Yeah, I can go first.
Okay.
She just wanted to share.
It's your topic.
Alright, so
I think I don't think you guys understand. Like I dreamed, like I would have dreams at night of me being like white because I was so stressed
Oh,
out.
I can make it happen. Where's the paint?
we got bleached in the back.
Yeah, but now I'm so thankful that I am Korean. Like I think one of the things I like enjoy the most is being able to speak two languages. I think that
Yes,
comes
sir.
that comes in handy like so much in so many situations. Like me and my sister would just talk about like whatever, like
You
in
talk shit
public.
in another language so they don't hear you.
Or like I don't know. I just feel like I think that's like a really big like benefits of being Korean, and also like as Korea's like getting bigger, like I feel like no food tops Korean food.
Oh,
And
you're
vibes.
right.
Yeah.
Facts.
So then like being able to like like have experienced that, I think is like one of the perks. And now people like not look up to Koreans, but they're more well known, right? And it like makes me happy because I feel like people deserve that. Like Koreans definitely deserve that because like we're hardworking people. Actually, cut that. That's so.
Okay, but like I think Koreans, yeah, we're hardworking people, but we can be stubborn and
mean.
We're humans like
and
another
annoying and frustrating.
And like
yeah.
Susie Lee.
What the?
Like you know what? Like my mom always makes that joke. Like the scariest people alive is Korean woman.
Oh yeah.
The tiger mom. You see all those K-drama people?
The scariest.
Yeah.
Like
Korean
my mom's
moms.
catchphrase because all like scary Korean women are short. You know, dynamite comes in small packages.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean? Like
for sure.
scariest people in the
Like
people
you just
are
see
Korean
them,
women.
you know. But yeah, I think I'm like really happy. Like if I were to be born again, I'll definitely choose Korean again. Dude, I can't speak right now.
You know what's okay? You guys talk about how you guys speak two languages. I also speak two languages. So like, if you combine my Spanish, French, and Korean knowledge together, it's about 80% of a language.
Oh no.
So we're good to go. Anyways, but
yeah, man, you're bilingual.
but yeah, I'm like so good. But anyways, so like
so good, huh?
no, yeah, I think my view on being Korean, I think it's interesting because like it's interesting to see how like accepted being Korean is. But then like being like Chinese and like Japanese, I think Japanese actually is probably maybe a little bit better than Korean because of like anime. But like China, it's like still like communist, right? And then like there's always a negative stigma with.
No, and COVID for some reason people.
Oh yeah, COVID with the China virus, like because Trump said China virus and all that crap. So then like, but I think like.
We're talking about something very controversial here right now. It's kind of scary.
No, he literally. Okay, anyways, but I'm saying he tweeted it. But like, anyways, but like, so like, I don't know if he tweeted actually, but like Korean became very popular because of like Squid Games and Parasite and
K-pop.
like BTS, K-pop, Blackpink, all that stuff.
BTS for sure.
Yeah, Blackpink too
So big.
for the guys, but like anyways, Jisoo. Anyways, but then so like. Yeah, like they became really popular. I'm actually a little bit like scared, just because like people come up to me sometimes and they're like, "Aren't you so happy you're Korean?" But it's like I was always happy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's not like I'm all of a sudden happy now. You know what I mean? Like it's like was I not happy before? Like no, I was always
You
proud
appreciate it more now.
I appreciate it, but I was always happy to be Korean. And also I'm kind of sad because like I thought all the snacks that I was eating were so unique and no other person would try it. Now everyone just goes to H Mart. And eats all my snacks, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yo, I'm trying. Where's my snacks? You know what I mean? It's sold. Why is it sold out? You know, like, and it's like, oh, they know foods now, and it's like, oh, like, the one thing that was unique to me is now becoming more mainstream, right? So in a way, I'm kind of sad, but like in a way, it's cool, but also kind of sad.
Also, I'm not on my phone. I'm ordering dinner.
Okay, we didn't ask.
Okay.
You ordered me dinner too.
Oh. Anyway. Well, I was gonna deliver it to Granite, unless you want to pick it up together. What do you want?
What do you get?
Wait, we can help.
Order food in the middle of the podcast.
I was gonna get Lala's bread.
Okay.
You want?
Sure.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, but yeah, like I think being Korean is like interesting now, but I also think too it's like people think like I think Korean dudes are probably like, oh yeah, now we're gonna get all the girls now. Actually, the most sought after people in the world I saw is Korean women.
Really?
Oh.
The least is I think Korean men.
Oh really?
Or it's not like even close. So like only Korean women are getting the benefits here in terms of that.
Interesting.
Because like Korean men aren't that sought after because I think we're still like physically not maybe that attractive. I don't know. But...
I think it's case by case.
Okay. All right. So you speak for yourself.
Like, well, the two here aren't that. But I mean, like, what if you go like
if you go outside of this room?
Go to kimchi. It's all right.
Yeah. What were you talking about?
Well, okay. So now
our views on being Korean now, I guess.
So now let's talk about why it's good and bad to be Korean today, and also maybe why it's like let's talk about that.
You guys go first.
Well, I'd say I've never really, and I told my parents this before I went to or moved to Korea, and even before I went to the military in Korea, I associated myself almost 60 to 40%, like 60% American, 40% Korean. And after I lived in Korea, it was closer to 50-50, but I still felt more American in terms of how I behave, how I dress, how I act, how I do things, how I think about things. It was all Western American style and whatnot. But after going through the military, and military straight up just 2 years of pure Korean, like not a droplet of English, not a cent of like anything American related. Or you know what I'm trying to say. Like
No, I don't.
after that, for some reason, I told my parents I feel like I'm 70% Korean, 30% like American. Like I felt so out of touch for no reason of being American, and I think it didn't help that we had COVID and whatnot, and everything was kind of transitioning between online and in person. And people were kind of just getting off the whole meeting people and talking to people in person. And even now, still, it's like there's so much distance that's being emphasized between ourselves and people. Being back here, I still feel much more Korean, even though I am completely fine doing things in American ways and speaking English and going to class here at Purdue. Like I have no trouble doing that. I still feel so Korean for some reason, just because of my military experience. And I didn't see that coming at all. And now, when I say that I'm Korean in front of someone, as a guy, I can kind of more confidently say it because I've been to the military. And there's a whole, cultural thing with Korean guys, whether or not they went to the military or not. Like, it's a big transition. It's a big step up from being just a man to being like an actual Korean man. Like, there's a whole, I guess, cultural thing that I learned about. And being exposed to not only the type of Koreans I hung out with when I was in Korea, but all kinds of Koreans, like all kinds of class, all kinds of upbringing, all kinds of levels of education, looks, interests, passions. There's just so many different types of Koreans that I met through the military that made me so much more exposed to what Korea is like as a country, as like a whole. Like people from different areas in Korea. Because I was living in Seoul for the most part when I was in Korea, so that's like the capital and whatnot. So everything's so culturally compact and saturated within Seoul. But I think my military experience in my division, there was like only a couple of us who were from Seoul, and most people were from like outside of Seoul. And hearing what they went through, how they went through childhood, the things they talk about. Obviously, there's like the common things like league and whatnot, but there's like the way they talk, the different accents, the different habits, the different foods they ate, and hearing about that and experiencing that with them really made me exposed to what Korea's like. So definitely right now as a Korean, I'm much more confident, much more grateful that I am Korean and having gone through the military experience. I feel more accomplished as a Korean and proud to be a Korean because it's a unique experience that no one can take from me, as whatever they can't do anything, they can't say anything to take that from me. So yeah, I think as of now, I really view being a Korean as a blessing and something I can use coming forth in my future.
All right, did not answer the question.
I have no clue. I was answering the previous
No,
question.
it was pros and cons of being Korean.
Well, you guys both had your take on what's your view on being Korean now. I didn't get to share.
Oh, okay.
Share.
You can split this.
No, it's fine. Not a big deal. But you want to go? Like,
I'll go. Well, you asked.
Go out the door, or
I think I don't have like pros and cons of being Korean, but I think the con of like being like the bilingual and like having the multicultural, I guess it is a blessing and a curse, but because I feel like sometimes my identity is so questionable, and like I would question.
That's a good point.
Yeah, like I mean, I think that is a pro and a con, is what I was trying to say, because like I'm glad I get to like experience both sides of whatever, but it makes me so picky. Like even when I'm like picking a partner, like I want them to speak both Korean and English, but I want them to be able to speak Korean well, but I also want them to speak English well. And I like, so I just become so much more picky. There's so many different levels of Koreanness and like Americanness, and it's just so confusing. And my percentages change too. I feel like I'm a lot more Korean than I was like 2 years ago. Like, and it's just so confusing. It changes constantly, and like I think the identity, the questionable identity is just like a pro and a con.
For sure.
I think something for me personally, like I think I also like am a little bit more Korean, only because I think I'm not embarrassed. Because when you live in the States, you know the popular people aren't Korean people. You know what I mean? Like, the popular person at maybe your high school was, I don't know, were they Korean or were they like?
My school is 90% Korean in high school.
Okay, yeah, exactly. So the most important, you know what I mean? Like you see the most popular being like Korean, right? And I think like for a while I kept trying to be not Korean because I want to be like a white person. Because you know they're the cool people. They're athletic. They have all the friends, right? They know what to eat, everything. Like they're whatever, right?
All the girls.
Yeah, all the girls, right? Whatever. Like they're and for the likewise they get all the guys, and you know they're considered the beauty standard, right? You see them on TV. Like everything is not Asian, right? So I think for the longest time, I didn't even want to like watch anything Korean. I didn't want to speak Korean. I didn't want to do anything Korean because it was like, what's the point? I'm not going to gain anything, right? But I think once like when being Korean became more accepted, you kind of understand, like you kind of like embrace it a lot more. So like even now, like even though I don't watch any American TV shows, I only watch Korean ones. But I forced myself to watch American shows, even though I didn't like it at all, because I wanted to stay. But now it's like, no, I'll just watch my K-dramas, I'll watch my Korean variety shows, and you know, you can just deal with it. You know, like I kind of like embrace it more, and like, you know, I listen to Korean music now because before, if someone called me listening to K-pop back then,
Same.
I would have gotten bullied out of my ass. So like, if I wasn't listening to Drake or NL Choppa or
I don't even know who the second.
yo, or, you know, be like,
Is it
or,
Anna Choppa?
Anna Choppa.
it's NLE Choppa. I don't know how the correct pronunciation, but like, you know, if I wasn't listening to Chance or if I wasn't listening to Post or some type of rap, you know what I mean? Like, it's rappers.
You know Post Malone?
Post Malone.
Or
Okay, that's Chance the Rapper.
I don't know Chance the Rapper.
Okay, Chance the Rapper. You know, like Kanye. If I wasn't listening to these guys, like, man, I would just got destroyed,
Yeah,
right? So,
I agree with
but now I listen to K-pop, and then when I came to college, and everyone listens to K-pop personally. So it's like it's cool, right? So it's like I think I'm like actually more Korean now, and that's why like I want to like learn like for real. And I have it's a funny story. I have a little cousin. He's 4 now, right? And he only speaks Korean.
Oh.
And the thing is, like, but like, since he's 4, he uses very basic Korean, right? So I can still kind of understand what he's doing. So he helped me learn Korean because, like, for a little bit, because like he would talk to me, and I would have to think what he's saying in Korean and English, and then I would respond in English. So he'd be like, "Oh, where's the food?" And then I would be like, "Oh, the food's over here," right? Because like, but it'll take me a little bit, right? So that kind of helps. But like, yeah, I kind of want to learn more.
Just come to Korea, man.
Yeah.
It's not
Just
that
go to
simple.
Korean school.
It's not that simple.
Go to Kundae.
Just go to the military, man. Just get up and you're set,
Are you
man.
scared? No, I'm just kidding.
Are you scared? You go.
I'll go.
I think Susie actually do pretty
I could
good
find
in
a
the
Song
military.
Joong-ki there.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that.
You won't be his division. Higher class.
I don't know about that.
No, yeah, I don't know. It's interesting because I think now, like in America, being Korean is accepted. Like people want to go to Korean restaurants.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable. Like
So many like people would come into kimchi.
Yeah.
That's where I work at. And they'll be like, "Oh, like this is my first time trying Korean food. Like, give me recommendations." I'm like, "Okay," and then I'll give them
Recommend the
classic.
rice.
yeah,
Yeah.
back to McDonald's.
Yeah. No, it was. But I think it's cute that like they tried. They're like, "Can you show us how to like use chopsticks?"
Because if
And
you
I'm like,
think about it, it's like us visiting Europe and being like, dude,
yeah,
food here is bomb. And you
pasta.
just, like, Italian food is so much better in Italy. Like,
Yeah.
it's the same thing.
Right.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with being more
Susie gets close off.
Okay, yeah, but it's just annoying because I'm always tired.
Right, teacher.
Yeah.
I think for pros and cons, or I guess being Korean now, I definitely agree with Susie in terms of identity. Like when people ask me where I'm from,
You can just say
I say Korean and I say Korea now, but that's like, if you really put it in terms of chronological order, I'm like 2/3 American,
Yeah.
1/3 Korea.
But you
It's only
can,
Korea
yeah.
because it's the most recent, right? So I like always hesitate, but I just straight up just say Korean. But then the second question is always, and even like last week when I was with my engineering group mates, the guy came up to me. He's like, "So where are you like from, right? Because you said you're from Korea, but you're like you have no accent, like no Korean accent when you speak English."
I feel like
And-
you have an accent.
Me, really?
Yeah.
No,
Really?
you have an accent.
I have an accent?
Yeah.
Oh.
What? Anyways, like any teacher or like any person that I would be interviewing with, they would ask me like, "Where are you from?" And I'm like, "I'm from Korea." And then the second question is always like, "Oh, your English is really good for a Korean." I always like hesitant. I'm like,
Susie's like, they're just being nice.
like, bro, bro. I'm actually born here. I was born and raised here for the most.
Oh,
of my
was
life.
that BTS interview? Remember when she was like, "Oh, your English is really from," and he was like, "I'm born in California." Or was it BTS?
So it's not BTS.
Oh wait,
Don't ever
who
say
was
that
born?
ever
Who was
again.
born? Wait, wasn't didn't some BTS members live in California for a little
No,
What?
no.
bit? Who am I thinking
You're
of?
thinking of somebody else.
Hey, comment what I'm thinking of.
Because you're not thinking of BTS. Because none of them. No.
Oh, none of them lived in California?
No.
I
The
don't
only
think
member
so.
who can decently speak English is RM, and he learned it from watching Friends 10 times.
I heard RM is really smart.
He's so hot.
Okay, you guys are on a different.
I said smart.
Wait,
I said smart.
Oh, I thought you said hot. Sorry.
Sorry, this is a.
So this is why Susie's bad at English. You
But
don't know what.
Now, I want to go into a little bit of stories that I know, because so me being like the most American, it's really funny when it's vice versa, right? When I speak Korean, you guys think it's hilarious, but then when you guys speak English, sometimes it's really funny. Not Joe, but
What? I think Joseph has an accent.
no, but
Wait,
Joe,
how do I have an accent?
No, but Joe never.
How do I have an accent?
Wait, you.
No, he doesn't sound like that.
Wait, I think you're just making fun of the way I talk.
No, but the thing is, Joe doesn't. Well, so Joe understood most like phrases, you know, or
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, I'll be
like,
out of touch with the trend or
Yeah.
the slang because I wasn't living here in high school. You know, I didn't
But-
pick up on.
But he knows more slang than you.
Yeah.
Not
my whip-
anymore. Not
You know-
anymore. Now I'm trendy now.
Like the whip. Do you guys know?
Oh, we gotta tell the story about the whip.
So the whip was so we're eating at Windsor, right? And we walk out of Windsor. I don't know who was there, but I remember it was me.
At least all three of us.
Us three were there, right? And then so I walk out, and then there was this silver car. I don't even remember what it was, but it looked really nice.
car.
And then so I was like, "Hey, yo, that's a sick whip."
Who
and then-
says that?
And then everybody, well, because like back then that's what you said, right? And then everyone was like, "Oh yeah, that's pretty sick. It was a sick whip, right?" And then Susie's like, "What's a whip?" And then you guys know like the dance move. So she whips, and then we're all like, "What?"
Wait.
So then Susie's like, "Wait, what?" I mean, she just keeps doing the dance move, and then we're like, "No, a whip is another way to say like your ride or
You
your
guys
car."
did so many weird things freshman year. It was just, I think it's, no.
I remember.
Kentuckians don't
Because
say-
like I say, let's dip and let's bounce, and that's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
and you were confused.
That's
you were like,
okay.
so
That's
she started bouncing.
Yeah, I'm like, bounce. Like, who says
I've
that?
heard of bounce. I remember one thing when we were like studying or something. Susie came in and she was like, "I'm gonna listen to some bangers." And I remember she was so proud that she knew what bangers was. Like
I like
in
Julie
the song,
learned that.
she like emphasized. She's like, "God, I want to listen to some bangers."
So
we get
some
it.
bops, and we're like, all right,
You
Susie.
listen.
Jeez. I remember
I
that.
guarantee you, Susie's been on like AmericanSlang.com, like reading
Yeah,
through and be like, "Also, this is okay. I get it."
But I know more now.
Oh yeah,
I
because
hope so.
you also stream, so like you're part of just.
Yeah.
Well, no, but she knows the wrong slangs. Like she unironically says "pog" and then like so.
It's poggers.
Poggers!
Susie gets 100 poggers.
Oh my
Oh,
god.
She has the wrong slang, but I think also like I remember like one time like BTS just released like a new song or whatever, and like Susie's like watching like maybe like a 2-pixel video of BT because like it was so bad quality. I remember it was probably like
140.
144 like frame rate, and like it's like these figures just moving, and it's obviously BTS, and she's crying.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
You were bawling, and then you're like they're so beautiful, and I'm like you can't even see who that is.
That's a very interesting pink square.
No, it's because it was right after a concert.
I think
That
it was
emotional.
it was the home album.
Shout
that
out to
album.
the army.
That was the
Yes,
that was
sir.
the
The military. That's what I'm talking
yeah,
about.
so that's what
Oh
yeah,
god.
the troops. Anyways, but yeah, like
It was,
that was really funny. I remember.
Yeah, but also I think back then I had like a little bit of country accent. So then Matt's mom
Susie's
called
the
me.
one girl that
Oh, yeah.
have a Korean accent but also a Southern accent at the same time.
Yeah, so then Matt's mom, whenever we went over to her house or his house, she called me a yellow hillbilly. And I was like, oh, okay. But I didn't even know I had an accent.
You probably didn't know what. Do you know what a hillbilly was?
Well,
when
yeah,
she said
Yeehaw.
yeah, but now, wait, I don't have an accent anymore.
No, you don't have an accent.
Yeah.
I
Certain
think.
words you do.
I think we're at a point where we just know the way we talk.
Yeah.
Like we confuse that with an accent sometimes. I think.
Like sometimes when my dad talks, like he doesn't like add the extra s, or like he doesn't like add, like, says the words right, because it's like Loki. He's like he's mixing up in his head. I know, and I'm just like, oh, okay.
Yeah. My dad does that too.
I guess I do get, like, one thing Matt says a lot. Like, you can cut this out. I just wanted to tell you. You pronounce both.
No,
Have you
I
noticed
remember we
that?
would make fun of Matt for like not pronouncing his like S's or something, like his TH's
He
wrong or
always
something.
says both.
Yeah, like
Both,
there was
both
something.
of you guys.
Both. Oh,
I
do say
remember there was
both.
something like you would.
No, I would
Oh.
say eggs.
Oh,
I would say
eggs!
Eggs.
I would say eggs.
He said eggs.
And then aunt. I say aunt, but people say aunt.
Okay, that's just
I
a
say
different
aunt, though.
pronunciation.
I say aunt though.
I
But
say
I
aunt
say
as well.
I say eggs. I say eggs. But now I say eggs because like I was so traumatized every time.
Yeah, because eggs. Like what?
It's different, like A-Y.
No, so
E-G-S.
so it's funny. So like no one in my family can speak any language apparently because like Adam has a lisp. No, not lisp. He has he can't pronounce a th.
You can't either.
No, but like but in like Adam all words like both maybe it's just because like I like that's how I always say that. But there's like you know like Thor. Adam says door.
Oh no.
So like
straight up door.
door.
Oh
So
my
like
God.
obviously if you say the word thick, he's like yo, it's pretty dick right now. And
All right.
the thing is like the thing is like but Adam knows now, so he says thick.
Oh, with an F.
With an F now, so he says thick. So it's thick. So if you hear him, he says thick, or he says like Thor, or Thor. He
sounds
says
better.
Thor. Yeah.
That
So like
sounds better.
he gets a little bit better, but before he couldn't pronounce it right.
Mm.
So yeah, like that was a
On that note,
Interesting. Yeah.
looks like our dinner's ready.
I guess we could end it here.
We talked for over
Over an hour. I mean, depending on how we cut this out, we'll see. But thank you for listening. If you guys want anything for us to talk about, I can't even speak anymore.
yeah, it's
If
like
you guys have
we're
any
like zero
suggestions,
people.
please comment down below or DM one of us some topics. We will look into it. Probably bring it up next podcast. If you guys have any feedback or suggestions, please leave a comment down below.
Yes,
Remember to
please.
like and subscribe.
We're on Spotify and
Yes.
YouTube now.
If you're listening through Spotify, please give us a good rating, hopefully 5-star, and
Yeah.
follow us so you don't miss an upload.
So we can
and-
make money to make SUJOBAE.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
yes.
also we are planning on eventually doing a guest.
Yes, so
Yeah.
So
comment
if,
to guest if
comment
you
a guest if you
want-
really want to see a certain person here.
yes,
Let us know.
sir.
Or if you want to see one of us leave the podcast.
Yeah, if you want Susie to lead a lot.
Comment 1 if you want Matt to leave.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Let's do a quick question. Quick, simple,
Yeah,
off-topic question. Simple question. Go.
Matt.
If you were a cow,
All right.
That's-
If I was a cow.
no,
Where are you
I
going with that?
forgot.
If I was a cow, I'd be a yellow cow.
Actually, I'm not gonna say that.
Don't say.
Yeah.
We'll leave it at
Be
that.
making Kobe beef.
Okay, we need a fun question.
One simple question. Anything.
Shit, we should have thought about this before.
I was gonna mention.
Look up good icebreakers.
Yeah, I'm gonna look up random icebreaker questions.
What's your favorite
No.
color? Like, what's your favorite color on us?
Ugh. Well, I've only seen you wear gray.
That's so beautiful. You're that is so.
No.
You're lying so much right now.
Is none an answer?
So you don't wanna
Oh, wait. No, not like that.
No.
No, not like that.
No.
Hey. So Susie's leaving the podcast.
Wait, none of the above.
Oh, no.
All right.
No
Oh,
color.
God.
Where's Dennis?
Wait, that's not what I meant.
You know, my bad. Bad question.
Oh no.
Oh, God.
No. Whoa.
Oh, I didn't even realize. Jeez, dirty minds, people. Dirty minds.
It's just you. Relax. So we should just.
Oh, but I'm getting a new mic, so our quality of sound would be
Oh, man.
heightened. I'm getting it.
If you could magically become fluent in any language, what would it be?
Korean.
We already know Matt's
English.
answer.
I might start this.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Okay.
Random question. If you could have your own TV show, what would it be about?
I do like a gaming show.
That's so typical.
Alright. Let me think I'm gonna cut that out.
But no one would watch because you're bad.
Not anymore. I think I'll do like an acting stuff.
Like you acting?
Yeah, because I'm pretty good at like.
Just you. Like,
Wait, I should have kept it on YouTube. I feel like it would have been viral. But when I was in like middle school, I would just videotape myself like starting to cry and stuff like that.
What the heck?
Yeah, I wanted to be an actress.
So you want to be on an acting show?
Yeah,
Or
sure.
have an acting show?
Yeah.
I think I would do like a Dr. Phil type show. I think I would really enjoy that.
A
Just like
Dr. Phil?
talking through like people's lives and like problems and stuff. I
would
think
not
I
watch
would.
that.
I would.
I'm just kidding.
I would have a good time.
What you just said.
I think I would be that guy.
Or cooking. I'll do cooking.
I'd be that guy doing Nat Geo.
What's Nat Geo?
National Geographic.
Oh.
Filming like slow motion, like animal movement. And be like commenting.
You can start now.
I wouldn't watch it either.
You see
You see the wild Susie.
over here we have the wild Susie
Oh God.
touching her hair. This is a
I'm not touching my hair. I'm
Goddamn.
this is a sign of her boredom and wanting to leave the room.
I'm just hungry.
Goddamn.
She's entering
Oh, my camera broke.
a phase called hangry.
Yeah, I'm actually so hungry.
All right, well, if you guys listened this far, thank you for listening.
Thank you for
And
listening.
as always, we'll see you in the next episode.
Bye.
Woo!
Holy crap.
Audio Jungle.
Smooth like butter, like a criminal undercover. Gonna pop like trouble, breaking into your heart like that. Woo! Cool shade stunner, yeah, I owe it all to my mother. Hot like summer, yeah, making you sweat like that. Break it down.